There is much talk currently about the gap between Māori and Pākehā, tātou, our people, te tangata. But we may share more similarity than we first imagine, much more. While we are different, we are in many ways the same. Please consider this possibility. A couple of thousand years ago, a group of Polynesians embarked their waka and paddled southeast for a couple of thousand miles across the ocean to a land that they had no idea existed. Nobody really knows with absolute certainty the actual shape of that voyage and what landfalls were made on the way, or for how long. But chance, or was it chance, ultimately took them to two islands nestled under a long white cloud, Aotearoa, New Zealand. Now think about that for a moment. What sort of courage and spirit did that adventure take?
Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither while they pass, they slip away across the universe.
To take to the Pacific for many months paddling without even knowing if there was a land to be found, never knowing what they would encounter, and knowing that when they stepped into that waka, saying goodbye to loved ones, family and friends, those farewells would be final. They would never see those people again. Either they would find a new land, or they would perish at the hands of the sea. There was no possibility whatsoever of a return trip. Now that is formidable spirit. Now, time shift to about 170 years ago, when a group of English people boarded a sailboat at Portsmouth. Their destination was a new land, Aotearoa, New Zealand. This was another one-way trip.
Into the great wide open, under them skies of blue, out in the great wide open, a rebel without a clue.
When these people said goodbye to their loved ones, family and friends, this too would be a final farewell. They would never see them again. There was scant, if any, chance of a return voyage. Now to board that ship took a formidable spirit. Perhaps we, the offspring of these two disparate groups of voyagers, share more than we may suspect. Our spirit. For since then we have shared our blood, and many of our people share the spirit and the makeup of these two groups. It's in our genes. There was another aspect that was shared. Both groups were bred in a hierarchical society. Māori were warriors, toa, the strong led. You accepted your position on the hierarchical scale without question. This was the way of things. This was tikanga. The English too were hierarchical. Working class, middle class, upper class. You knew your place and you stayed there. You moved only with your own, tradesman's entrance. This too was the way of things, tikanga, protocol. Boarding the boat there were no upper classes. This was mostly a working class adventure with the allure of perhaps a better life, new beginnings. Well, the obvious happened when the two tribes met. They both understood hierarchy. But the English saw an immediate opportunity, for the Māori were, in their eyes, stuck in the Stone Age. The English were from the Industrial Age, leagues ahead in development as they saw it. In their minds, this made them better. It didn't take the working class English long to establish a new hierarchy, one in which they saw themselves at the top of the order, top dogs, for the first time in their lives. The respectful Māori were of course wooed somewhat by the English, by the white man's magic, for these pale newcomers had things, stuff, like a written language for example, books, one called a Bible with a god that seemed to be the god. They wore fabrics, materials never seen before. They had eyeglasses and they had guns, unbelievably efficient weapons for their time. It all seemed like magic. The deals were struck and Māori very quickly accepted their position in the new hierarchy, and that was squarely below the English. And they did accept it. On the new criteria, how could they possibly compete? Remember, this was just 5 or 6 generations ago, but everything changed. Everything.
You must leave now, take what you need, you think will last. But whatever you wish to keep, you better grab it fast. Yonder stands your orphan with his gun, crying like a fire in the sun. Look out, baby, the saints are coming through, and it's all over now, baby blue.
Following hierarchical rules, the Pākehā, the top of the heap, quickly and consistently cast Māori as second class to themselves. And because Māori were already subscribers to hierarchical structures, many of them actually believed they were second class. Mostly, they accepted the status. Mostly, they simply believed they had to. As did their children, who were taught to accept the fact that they were somehow second tier to the newcomers, as did their children and their children and their children. It is only with the more recent generations that this status has been rightfully challenged. But the price of this breeding, this belief, it's been heavy. First, understand this. It's not that Māori did not want to compete with and equal the newcomers. It's just they did not believe they could. A powerful thing, belief, even if it is built on false foundations. This belief was then passed on through the generations. And this is why Māori hid the stats and the likes of failing at education. This in a system that once outlawed their own language. What were we thinking? The stats in unemployment, crime and violence are also not good. Māori feature heavily. But damn it, that was always going to happen in a system that started around 1860. In any hierarchical culture, the stats will always be weighted heavily towards the group that has been compromised into a lower position by change. Always. Is that so hard to understand? And lower is exactly where those English who disembarked the boat from Portsmouth put the Māori. If they have any defence, it's the fact that in a new age, they simply did not know any better. Where some Māori have been left behind, we need to open the path to a step up, and that path can only be found by looking forward now. We look back far too often. It is time. Time to say, fair's fair. I'm walking through a mall. It's 1:37 a.m. on a wet Tuesday morning, and I'm staggering a little, drunk, looking for a cab. My suit's crumpled, wet. I look up and see someone else, drunk also perhaps, walking towards me. We're the only two people in the mall. He's a big man. He wears a leather jacket with a large logo on the back, wears it all the time. He wears something else that he will never take off, a full-face moko. I suddenly sober. I've nothing in common with this man. I feel intimidated, scared. As we pass, I keep eyes down, praying that nothing happens, but it does. Got a spare smoke, bro, he asks. I give him a taily past the lighter. Thanks, man. That's cool. And on we walk, different paths. Suddenly, I find that I'm walking on the moon, totally alone. Strangely, there's air to breathe. After days of walking aimlessly alone, I see him in the distance, walking towards me. He's a big man. He wears a leather jacket with a large logo on the back, wears it all the time. He wears something else that he will never take off, a full-face moko. I feel incredible joy. I have everything in common with this man. We're from the same place. Yeah, that blue planet, over there, that one. We run towards each other, laughing. We hug, we look back at Earth. Yes, it's where we're from. We share the same home, on land that nobody can ever really own. We're only caretakers. We share the same spirit as our one-way voyaging forebears, a spirit we have bred through generations, through our people, through each other's people. A shared spirit of adventure. Our planet is small, distant, still blue. Yet when we view it from the moon, we instantly realise that the world is one small place, and that its people are one. No matter how different, we are the same. Now, we must embrace, not divide. Our time has come. It may not be easy, but we must persevere, for a choppy sea can always be navigated. He moana puki puki e kinga e te waka.